World War III. Yeah, been there, heard that. This isn't it. We're talking about World War 3.1, and I'm going to show you what the distinction is. It's important that we follow along with what's going on specifically inside of China and the build up to the next level of something we really haven't seen before. We've looked in previous instances of the Cold War and everything that's been happening with China, Taiwan, and I'm going to show you some aspects that you must pay attention to because they will have a dramatic impact on your future. A lot is changing right now, and if we bury our heads in the sand, we might miss it, but it ain't going to be pretty. Let me tell you, I'm going to show you the details. I'm going to show you why it's important. Very first thing I wanted to cover is this. There's a quote. The Intel CEO at Davos said that chip supply chains will shape geopolitics more than oil over the next 50 years. We're talking about one of the most important commodities in the world, oil, and they're talking about chip supply chains. This is coming from Intel, and by the way, it just happened to be at the World Economic Forum. Let me read you what's going on here because I think that he makes a good point about what they're saying is World War 3.1. Since Russia invaded Ukraine, there has been more discussion about World War III than any time in recent memory. Yet, we can't help but wonder if World War III isn't a misnomer and that World War 3.1 is more accurate because chips and semiconductors are likely going to play a huge role in initiating and winning any such global conflict. The tech space generally likes to use versions and decimalized numbers rather than Roman numerals. Let's run with that. Basically, what we're talking about here is the role that semiconductors are playing. And so we are now at what is, in my opinion, the next level. I'm going to show you all the aspects of that in today's video. You got to understand what's happening with the chips and how there's so many intricate pieces. But in this one video, I'll explain it all to you very quickly. Right here, we have this. China's tech distress grows as US chip sanctions bite. Well, some argue that that's not exactly true, but here we go. Washington's restrictions on sale of advanced technology to Beijing appears to be working for now. And so here we go. What do they want to limit? Artificial intelligence. That's one of them. Very important. So the most advanced possible chips, they're restricting China's ability to actually utilize those. And some are saying that it's been working. Okay. You can see semiconductor imports to China are falling. Chinese companies say that they are struggling to get key components and machinery and chipsets that have been remodeled to make them less powerful so that they fall within the US rules are now threatened by the possibility of additional restrictions. So there's a couple things here that I need you to understand. If you are an investor in NVIDIA, if you're looking at these companies and looking at where the stock markets have gone because of these things, like NVIDIA or like all these other technology companies, pay attention to this video. I'm going to show you why there's some cause for concern. This is important. Look here. Value of chip imports to China in the billions of dollars. Here we go. Taiwan clearly above and beyond. Above and beyond. Now that has declined though. If you look at it, just seeing it over the last year, what has happened comparing 2023 to 2022. And also we have South Korea, same situation that it's declined, but I just want to show you number one, that Taiwan, by far, value of chip imports to China, it is above and beyond. And so that's why there's such a heated debate about when we talk about Taiwan, China, very important stuff. Okay. So they want to make it much more difficult for China to be able to access this stuff as a way to basically go to war with them without having to drop a bomb. Now, think about that. You want to use the latest technology. You want to have access to these things. Partially, what they wanted for, of course, is having the most advanced robotics, machinery, military, every single aspect here. But individuals as well, they might want something that is advanced, okay? So it goes on all levels, both the consumer side, industrial, military, and everything else. But they're being restricted. It's the United States, it's the Netherlands, it's Japan, and they're all doing their part in what they can do to restrict China's ability to grow and advance at the fastest pace. So they're doing everything they can. China, at the same time, though, is trying to step up their game. Will they be able to do it? You can't just flip a switch. They can do these restrictions pretty much instantly, and that's what they have. But now China's trying to say, no, I'm going to do my own thing right here and now. All right, let's look at it. China chip firms soar on report of advance in fabrication tech. Shanghai-based institute to ship the gear later this year. Some China-listed chip-making suppliers jumped on the news. So here we go. Are they actually able to produce what they need? Is China going to do this? Is it actually going to happen? Well, some are saying yes, some are saying no. Chinese chip-making machine suppliers surged following a media report that a state-backed firm made a significant technological breakthrough, spurring hopes the country can lessen its reliance on U.S. semiconductor techniques. Very important stuff for China and investors too. You see, this is important. We'll talk about that more in a second, but I just wanted to highlight the fact that in China, they are investing a lot of money into this. China realizes that they can't do whatever they want without that having an impact on, the United States. This is in terms of like the SWIFT system, the financial system, but it also applies here to the semiconductors. Semiconductors are in everything, okay? You look at just about everything, we've got semiconductors in them. A lot of the materials in those semiconductors are coming from China. And so you can't really, have this not impact you. It is going to impact everybody in one way, shape, or form. Fears of Chinese self-driving car tech are on the rise. There's a lot of talk about this and essentially saying, hey, we're allowing this autonomous vehicles in here, but all the Chinese tech is inside of it. They're going to be able to read all of this data and then take it back home. That's the concern. And so what I'm trying to tell you is that when we live in a world in which everything is back and forth and we have a globalization in the way that it is so intricate, it really could be a disaster should the two sides go to war. And I want you to tell me what you think about this. Is there any possible reality in a World War 3.1? You let me know. And I want to ask you, why? Why should we care about this? Why? I'm an investor in NVIDIA. I don't need to worry. I don't deal with China. I don't need to worry. Let's talk about why you need to care. Who will AI help and harm in the manufacturing sector? And so, what they're looking at here is workers with disabilities. That suggests that, at least the people believe if they have a disability, the AI is going to help them. If they are a low-skilled worker, many of them believe that it's more going to harm them. Older workers say it's going to harm them. And so it depends on where we go with this, right? And I think that people have underestimated what people are trying to achieve with AI. And these companies, the corporations on the conference calls, on all of the, in the boardrooms behind the scenes, they are saying, what do we got to do to get rid of people? A lot of that is in the white collar workforce. It's not necessarily, somebody, dealing with a trade or something. That's not what this is about. So pay close attention to that. We also have this. I hope you can read that. I know the font's a little small. America's import reliance of critical minerals. And so you could see that the U.S. relies on a variety of nations to import critical minerals. How dependent on the U.S. on imports for specific minerals, and which country does the U.S. depend on most? Top of the list, or I should say several of these, like 95% plus, a lot of that is China. Absolutely on that list. And so you'll see arsenic and, go down the list, even graphite is in there. Gallium is the one that I believe they restricted exports of. So China holds the key in this respect on many of these different minerals. If you can look at that list, if you're interested, of course, you can check the sources and I'll have it down there for you if you want to look at that. But know that this is a very big cause for concern because these things are used in the semiconductors. These things are used in the materials that are required for military. They're all over the place. And yet, if you start to say, no, China, you're bad for that, well, China's going to say, all right, well, we'll restrict that. And then they say, oh, you're doing that to us? Oh, okay, we're going to restrict you on that. And then one after the other, after the other, after the other. And it's not looking good right now. The tensions are hotter than they have ever been before. This is a very big problem and will not be resolved overnight. You've got the financial aspects, the currency wars that are taking place. This is just one part of that. Chinese money flees the Western world. Investors who once bought New York City hotels are placing funds elsewhere. Now, that could be in the medium term, not a good idea. Long term, who knows? But they want to get yield. They want to get a return on their money, but they're scared. They don't want to put it there. A lot of people from mainland China are putting it in Hong Kong. Maybe they're going as far as Singapore, but they don't want to necessarily be doing all of these deals in the US. Look how all of these things started happening. It started going wild a few years ago, right? The money, billions here. We're going to build the Waldorf or buy up the Waldorf Astoria. We're going to just buy. What happened with Alibaba? Like all these things started expanding. And then China said, absolutely not. We're going to cut that off. No more deals. You're not doing any of it. We're cracking down on corruption, cracking down on the capital control aspect, everything, right? This was huge. This was so big. And now we are seeing that has stuck. They don't want the money leaving. And if it's going to go, it's on a short leash. So this means, in my opinion, why you should care is that as far as I'm concerned, they're cracking down. And during these times, these tougher times, it seems likely that they are at least in preparation for war. That's a big deal. Do you see this? They're getting their self-reliance. They're doing that with commodities. They're getting all the other partners. They're partnering more with Brazil than they are with the US on soybeans, other things. They're going to Argentina. They're going to all these places. And they're saying, hey, let's do business. At the same time, you could see for other factors here, they have been on the currency side, on the financial side, they're saying, you got to restrict what you're doing. And they're making that obviously very apparent. China represents an increasing threat to the U.S. power grid, lawmakers were told during a hearing in which they warned a cyber attack from the nation could plunge military and other sensitive sites into darkness. Chinese activities are quite alarming. Chinese cyber activities are one of the most dynamic cyber threats. China continues to demonstrate increasing sophistication, new adaptive techniques to gain access to the networks. Okay, so this is important. Obviously, I don't need to explain why, but cyber attacks are a big thing. And I think the next war will likely be some level of currency war and cyber attack versus military, submarines, airplanes. It just doesn't seem that likely. Although a surgical strike on certain things could be possible, I think it's more cyber and currency. And we look at all of these happening, the tit for tat, the back and forth, that's going on right now. And I am concerned about it. What do you have to do? Well, the very first thing that you've got to do is you got to get your finances in order. You got to watch where you are overexposed. If these companies right here, like NVIDIA, okay, you are investing in NVIDIA either directly or indirectly, not NVIDIA, I'm just using that as an example. But you are investing in these companies. Now, suddenly, what's happening here is that money is flowing into them because they're not going into the Chinese manufacturers. So all around the world, they're looking for, hey, I need to put money in AI and those semiconductors that are, working with AI. But now they start opening up. China says, hey, we got companies that do that too. The most advanced technology, we're building it here. Some of that money is going to go to China as well. A lot of the developing world, you got investors, India, all these other countries that are siding with China, they're going to put some of that money there. So you have less growth potential. And at the same time, there's other things that we've talked about before. But just understand that as the development of China picks up, that does have an impact on what we see right now. And of course, this back and forth is never good because it could develop into more cyber attacks, power outages. The concern for the grid is already a problem just with weather and things. Just imagine that suddenly every day the power starts going out. This would be very disruptive to your life. Get your stuff in order, not just your finances. Have geographical diversification. If you can, you got to be able to look outside of your borders. You got to look to where a place where you think is safe and start to just investigate. Just start doing the homework right now. I've got a lot of information about this on my Discord. If you want to get in the Discord, totally free. By the time you're watching this video, there's probably 1,000 people on the Discord. Get that link down below, totally free, and I will see you there. Come in, say hi, and we'll talk. Take care.